everybody, welcome to Rachel's Reviews, and today we are talking indie animation. And it's so much fun. We're talking about Tokyo Godfathers. This is a really special film. I'm so excited to get a chance to dive into it. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner, and Stanford is here.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to talk with you about this movie. Thanks again for including me
Yeah,
on this.
missed you this last month because you were in down under. It was very
I
exciting.
went to the land down under.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good trip, Rachel. And a long airplane ride.
Had you ever been there before?
I had been to Australia about 15 years ago. So
Okay.
it was fun, really fun to go back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when I was in high school, I actually signed up to go to Australia, but then not enough people there was this one teacher that would do these like non-school sponsored trips that she would coordinate, with other students and with their teachers and different stuff like that. And not enough people signed up for the Australia trip, probably because it was too expensive. And so we ended up doing Italy and Greece, which was amazing.
Amazing, but still,
Yeah,
it's been
but
fun to go to Australia.
I've never gotten to go, and I've always wanted to go, especially, how much I love swimming, and my dream is to someday get to see the Great Barrier Reef. Um,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I'd have to be scuba certified and everything, but it was so fun just to follow your exploits as you traveled.
Oh, thank you. It was a great trip, and I'm happy to be home.
Yes. You
So
started in Hawaii and then you went
yeah, and we caught a cruise ship,
uh-huh.
it was a trans-Pacific
Uh-huh.
trip. We were on the ocean for 7 days until we hit our first stop, which was
Ooh, that's a long
uh
time.
Pago Pago, American Samoa,
Uh-huh.
and then we went to Suva, Fiji, and
Oh, nice.
New Caledonia, and then to Sydney.
Oh,
So a
wow.
lot of time on the ocean, but overall it was pretty smooth sailing, and it was wonderful. My grandfather served a mission, for our church
Mm-hmm.
in Australia,
Oh,
and he
neat.
caught a boat from San Francisco, and took the boat. I don't know. We don't know from his journals how long it took. You just know that he did it, and so it was really in its own way kind of an homage to him, just kind of having. I mean, we were on this luxury cruise liner, so it's a little different probably than what his conditions were. Not that he was on some icky thing, but just
Yeah,
different and many years ago. But still, uh, it was a great adventure. Yeah, thank
that's
you.
awesome. That's so fun. Well, you'll have to listen to, we had a lot of fun for the Talking Disney, me and Jonathan talking about
Yes,
Frank and Weenie.
I
And
can't wait to
so
listen to it
yeah,
because
it was really fun.
that was so. I'm so glad John could join you. I was sad that
Yes.
I couldn't join you, but John's
Yeah.
so great,
Yeah.
and that's such a fun movie.
I really
Perfect. That's
enjoyed it.
like the perfect Halloween movie.
Yeah, and I had never seen the original live action short, and we covered that as well.
Oh,
So that
good.
was
Okay,
fun
I wanted to
to
ask you if
watch.
you had seen that.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. That was
isn't
fun.
that fun? That live
Yeah.
action short.
Yeah. It
Uh,
was really, really fun.
yeah,
But I was trying to think of what might be fun to talk about for November. I mean, I really probably should have saved this for December because it's a Christmas movie, but
it's a Christmas movie, but
whatever.
still
We can talk about it
holiday.
whenever we want. I mean, I'm already in full Christmas mode because I've been talking
Hello,
about
I was gonna say you've already
we're
seen a
on
bazillion Christmas movies, probably,
we're on
right?
week 4 going into to Hallmark Christmas movies. So but I've seen this movie. We actually did an episode of the Criterion Project on it. I've seen it a number of times now, and I do really think that every time I see it, I appreciate it more. Every time I
Yeah,
see it, I like
yeah.
it more, and so that continues on with this watch. I just really love this movie. And I mean, it includes a lot of things that I love. Obviously, the animation, obviously the anime, obviously the Christmas, elements to it. It's just a really, really good movie. I
I
think.
agree. I've seen it before too, so I was very happy for the opportunity to rewatch
Mhm,
it. And I just it's a movie that I respect tremendously,
mhm.
and again, just really was so happy to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, so this was by director Satoshi Kon and writer, he wrote it. And it's on Christmas Eve, three homeless people living on the streets of Tokyo discover a newborn baby among the trash and set out to find its parents. And I think that maybe the reason why it's a movie that grows on me. I liked it from the beginning, but the the mannerisms are a little like in your face, and the way that kind of the characters talk is very like guttural and very forward. And I think
yeah.
it takes me a little bit to kind of get used to that and get in that space. And eventually that becomes kind of part of its charm, I think.
I think so too. Because if there's the English dub version, Rachel, I don't think I've seen it because I think
Yeah, same.
I've only seen it with subtitles, and I'm with you. I love being able to hear the Japanese, the voice actors.
Hmm.
I'm with you. There's just
Yeah.
something almost raw, really raw
Yeah.
feeling about it. And even though I don't understand the word they're saying, but
Right.
there's something about their performance. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's so Satoshi Kon, particularly this movie and Paprika his movies are so different than what we typically see out of anime, what we typically see
yeah,
out of uh out of particularly, you know, out of not even just anime, but what we typically see out of most Japanese filmmakers. There's a famous filmmaker named Uzu, and did Tokyo Story and
yeah.
other films, and those are great films, but they're very like clean and kind of orderly in a way. And you even
Well,
think
and
of
the emotion is like unspoken
yeah, and
almost.
and you think of like Studio Ghibli, there with something like Spirited Away is very wild in many ways, but it's also very clean in many ways. I don't know if like the chaos is somewhat orderly and there's a plan, there's a thing to. Whereas I think that there's something really refreshing about this movie in particular. It's kind of dirty. It's kind of um imperfect, flawed, interesting in a way that I typically don't see in anime and I typically don't see even in just Japanese films in general.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know, most of the action takes place at night, and so I
Hmm.
think that's another
Yeah.
thing where it's, I mean, takes just takes place in the dark, and not that
Yeah.
it's not a dark film at all. It's just that most of the action, is happening, during evening hours, and I think that really sets an interesting tone for
Yeah.
it too, and also is really great with the animation as well.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of scenes, you have scenes in landfills, trash, cemeteries, just different than what you typically see. Like
Hmm.
in, I mean, I love the filmmaker Hirokazu Kurita, and he has a film called Afterlife, which is a favorite of mine. I haven't seen a bad film from him. He's just great. Another one called Shoplifters, which is a little more untidy, I would say, but Afterlife, it's just interesting because it's his version of the afterlife, but it's like basically a school type building. It's like a cement, industrial building, and everything
Yeah,
is very like clean and orderly, and it's a great movie because everybody has to pick one memory when they come to this way station, and then they go and make a little movie video, because this was the 90s, a video that then they of that memory, and then they take that on to the next step. And it's very clever and very interesting. And some people really struggle to pick a memory. Some people don't feel qualified. Some people, all different things. It's a great movie, but it's just what you typically see as far as the aesthetic. And this just feels so different to me. And you always feel when you're watching Satoshi Kon movie, and it's just such a shame that he didn't get to make more.
I
But
know, it's so
you
tragic. He
yeah, you
died at age
always
46.
yeah, so young, and you always feel like he just has such an affection and love for his characters,
Yeah,
and you really feel that here for these 3 characters and this baby, so the 4 characters total. You feel just such an affection, I think, for the characters.
yeah, yeah. I agree. It's he's paying all three of these, and these people are all flawed
Yeah,
and have made mistakes,
yeah,
but they're all so, I think, in some way likable,
yeah,
and sympathetic,
yep,
and you're rooting for them. Uh, and you wouldn't think that, initially. It's just kind of like, what is this, when it first starts. But wow, they're
mhm.
great. And yeah, I attribute that again to the
Mhm.
great script and great animation and direction.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night or even become a guest on the podcast. Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
You ever seen the film it's based on, 1948, Three Godfathers?
No,
It's an
I don't think.
American film.
Yeah, and I don't think I've seen it. I'll have to look at my letterbox to see if it might have been on Turner Classic Movies one night, and I watched it,
Yeah,
but I
it's a
really,
John Ford with film. So that's why I
yeah.
thought maybe, you might have it's got John Wayne
I was gonna say John
and
Wayne's in it, if I'm
yeah.
not mistaken. And I was gonna say I might have seen it late night, something
Yeah.
on TCM. But
It'd be
have you
interesting.
seen it?
I never have. Uh it's about it's a Western, and I guess it's 3 fugitives that are fleeing or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. So that's it would be interesting to compare, compare the 2.
I know.
But
I want to try to hunt it down or see if when it's
yeah,
playing next on TCM.
TCM. Yeah, that would be interesting. But yeah, so there's 3 main characters, the 3 godfathers. We have Hana, who is our drag character.
Yeah,
And then we have Jin, who is the alcoholic older man. And then we have Miyuku, who is our runaway teenager.
yeah,
And what starts everything going, it starts out with them at church, and you see the pastor, he says that Jesus was born to offer those alone a place in which to be alive, which I think is kind
and
of an interesting way to start it off, with this
it's
nativity of this
Christmas.
lonely baby.
Yeah, yeah. It's Christmas Day, right, or is it Christmas Eve? I'm trying to. I think it's Christmas,
um
isn't it?
Let me see. Christmas Eve
It's
is when it
Christmas Eve,
starts.
where
Yeah.
they're all at this church service.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And
with a
it
whole
says,
bunch of other homeless people and other downtrodden.
yeah,
But
nothing is harder than to have no place, which, makes sense. And really, these 3 have lost their place. And I think that that's even harder than someone who maybe is habitually unhoused, or is sort of grown up as a nomad kind of a thing. Like, they all had loving environments at one point, or homes of some kind, and then were basically kind of kicked out, or chose to leave for various reasons. So I think that even adds more to it than
mhm.
and you think about the baby in the nativity scene at the beginning, that that it is a kind of a helpful imagery to use throughout the course of the movie,
Yeah.
because it's not like a religious movie by any means, but it just helps sort of place it in context that we can all relate to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah.
And so they're looking and they find this baby in the trash.
Yeah, they hear this at some point. They're like arguing or something. Then they hear this crying, and
Yeah.
lo and behold,
Yeah. And so they decide to name the baby Kyoko. And that's this, it translates to Silent Night.
yeah,
And
which they fight about a lot.
yeah, they
The
do.
name.
It's a very funny movie. It's very, very funny. I particularly I think Hannah is probably my favorite of the three. I
Oh,
just love her.
Hannah is such a colorful character,
Yeah.
so well, yeah, developed,
Mhm.
yeah,
Such a
and
sweet, sweet person who just wants to love this baby, and just a
Hannah
very
has a
endearing.
huge heart.
Yes.
Yeah,
Very endearing, very endearing. You then you have that Hana, she's very worried about the child, wants to find the mother, and that she thinks that, there's got to be more of a story. She wants to try to help. We also learn a little bit about Jin in this beginning, where we find out that he was married and had this child, and he was a cyclist, but he got disgraced. And so you get to start to know a little bit more about all the characters. That You find out Miyoki's father was a policeman. And she probably has the most dramatic of all of them, of the backstories,
yeah,
because she after her father basically kind of loses her cat, she gets really upset and she stabs her father and runs away. So
yeah. Let's
pretty
say
intense.
that's intense. Yeah,
Yeah. And so we get kind of this back and forth as they're searching, trying to find the mother. We learn that they find out the mother's name fairly quickly, um through they go to this wedding, and that's how they're able to find. They help this man. They save this man's life, and then they're able to help. They go to his daughter's wedding, and it's there then that they find out who she was, the mother, named Sachiko, and that starts them kind of looking for her.
one of the things I really love about this movie, again, because I love really pretty much everything about it, but I love the storyline,
Yeah.
because it feels to me like you're reading, if Charles Dickens wrote a modern novel set, in current day,
Yeah.
modern day Tokyo, just how these characters are all so overlapping throughout the entire story. Because initially, I mean, I remember the first time I saw it, I was just thinking, okay, this is so impossible. Like, they are in one of the biggest cities in the world, and how are they ever going to like run into anybody that's going to know anything? I mean,
Yeah.
I was just kind of was thinking too bit, and well, or just, I don't know, too broadly maybe.
Yeah. Well,
Not that this film is small, but it's just, I love how all these characters are interacting, they're interacting with each other all the time.
yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, it is very easy how quickly they find out about Sachiko. But there is something to the effect. I was actually just talking with a friend about this, about, because a big element in the Hallmark movies is the girl that goes to the city and loses her way, and then has to go to the
Yes.
country, and that's a common plot. And we were talking about how oftentimes in the city, that the cities can actually become very small depending on
Yeah.
where you live. Like, you can, wherever a person lives can become an island unto themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
That, like, your doorman, your borough, your building, your, kind of thing becomes its own sort of little,
Yeah.
community. And so that's the only way I would think to kind of explain it, is that maybe it's a smaller hospital. Maybe there's only so many babies that were born that day, that, and so that starts to kind of, it just gets a little bit smaller, the group. But it is a little bit on the easy side that, that they happen to save this man who he gets caught in his car. They save him, and then they go to the wedding reception, and then they find out that the name of the girl that
Of the girl.
baby.
And
Yeah.
and I hope I'm not portraying it as in a negative, because that's what I love about it.
Mhm.
That and sure, maybe it is easy, but it also just works. Like,
Yeah.
the how
Well, it's like the magic
Miyoko.
of Christmas. I think it helps it being
Yeah,
at Christmas because
yeah, I
that,
think that's right.
that there are some sort of miracles involved here. And so then this man comes and basically abducts Miyoki and the baby, and takes them hostage, and is, pretty violent man. And we start to learn more about the baby's father and what ended up happening. And it's kind of a big reveal at the end, that it actually, in reality, wasn't Sachiko's baby, actually, that she had a stillborn. So things just get more and more complicated. But yeah, we get this scene with this hitman abducting Miku and the baby. And then she becomes good friends with the hitman's wife, who actually feeds the baby.
Yeah, who's
And
like can nurse the baby,
yeah.
which is fantastic, because you're worried about this baby, like,
Yeah.
if you can keep the baby alive.
Yeah. I'm like, they don't have any diapers, they don't have
Yeah,
anything.
they don't have anything, or any money, or
Yeah.
anything.
I mean, now if they were going to do this story, they'd probably have the baby be dropped off in a drop-off center, that
Yeah,
they have everywhere, including in Asia, and a lot of churches and stuff like that will have a
yeah.
drop-off if people. And that's actually the movie. That movie no, it wasn't Shoplifters. It was that movie. Hirokazu Korida did a movie last year set in Korea called Brokers, and
Oh,
that was a very good movie, about uh these people that take the babies from the drop-off center and basically like sell them to adoptive wanting parents. And what ends up happening is one of the moms who drops off the baby kind of finds out about it and ends up becoming involved with the broker. And so obviously there's people doing lots of wrong things, but it's a good film, and it's his first movie that Corey does. His first movie he ever did in Korea. So it's interesting because he did the year before. I forget what it was called, but he did a movie that was in French. So it's kind of interesting. He's a great director.
varied. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And but he has another one called Still Walking, which is a wonderful movie. He's a great director. And a lot of some similarities. Satoshi Kon, his movies are a lot louder than anything that Korida does. His movies are sort of more quiet and still. But
yeah.
but
Introspective in a
but
way, maybe.
but characters sort of on the fringes and creating their own families, that's definitely a connection in all of his movies, and in both filmmakers movies. And that's what they're basically kind of doing here. And you even have just these like little segments of like, for instance, where Miyaku is bonding with the hitman's wife. She's helping the baby. Like the whole community is basically helping to sort of save this baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really sweet.
Hey, this is Jen Johans, host of the podcast Watch with Jen, which delivers a steady stream of great movie recommendations, thoughtful career deep dives, and first rate conversations with film critics, authors, actors, journalists, filmmakers, and more. You can find Watch with Jen wherever you get your podcasts or hear us first at our Patreon at patreon.com/filmintuition.
Then, so we find out that the Jin, that he had this daughter, and like I said, he was disgraced as a cyclist, and he ends up with there's this old man who makes one last request. So he's trying to help this man, but they end up getting kind of beat up.
Just
And
by some hoodlums, that are
mhm,
just, they're just being,
yeah.
yeah,
The only
being
thing I
violent.
wasn't sure about Jin is there's a scene where after he gets beat up, he sees this angel. And I
Yeah.
wasn't sure who that was supposed to be. If that's supposed to be just a generic angel, or is it supposed to be a specific
Yeah, I wondered the
person?
same thing, Rachel. I didn't know. I had wondered if it was like a representation of his wife,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just, maybe it was just an angel to help, because there seems to be like this, and I don't know if it's necessarily related, but there's like this undercurrent that this, and Hannah really believes it, big-hearted Hannah, but
Mhm.
that this baby is special, and God wants this baby to live,
Yeah.
and it's like their job to protect this baby until they can, get it back to his parents, or whatever they're, kind of the
Mhm.
end goal.
Yeah.
Um, maybe, but it seems like Hannah's always saying that, right? And kind of that's like a point of contention amongst the
Mhm.
three, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and Hannah she keeps saying, I want to love this baby as long as I can. Kind of
Mhm.
how, she feels like an immediate bond, which is very,
Yeah.
very sweet.
Yeah.
And then so we have they go to this bar, and there's this dancer that Hannah calls Mother, a friend of hers, and she says, all I ever wanted was love. And I, I just, you can see how frustrated she is, but she doesn't lose hope. And
Right. She doesn't lose hope. She keeps carrying on, and we learn some stuff,
mhm,
with her backstory. But also, isn't that where they get reunited with Jin too? Jin kind of
mhm.
is able to pull himself together, or they help. Is that
Yeah,
where they
yeah.
help nurse
He's
him back
there.
to?
He's just seen the vision with the angel,
Yeah.
and then they find out about the mother of the baby, Sachiko, that the husband had gambling debts. And this is a powerful moment for Jin, because he had left his daughter, and because of his own disgrace and debts. And he says that even a good for nothing father never forgets a child.
Yeah.
And so he
And it,
yeah, he was a gambler. He wants to, and then he starts to realize, I want to do something for my daughter as well as this baby.
and again, this is just for me, all the Charles Dickens. I guess it's just the
Uh,
English major in me, but
yeah.
just all the Charles Dickens does come back in again, and I mean that as a compliment, because I love Charles Dickens,
Yeah.
and I just think I just love how these characters just kind of somehow they keep finding each other.
Mhm.
They get separated, and then they come in back together and learn more, and all these other things. It's delightful.
Yeah. And so then Miyuki calls her father, but she doesn't have the guts to actually talk. And he's trying to talk to her, and but she just hangs up.
You can't do
And
it. Yeah.
yeah. And then there's this interesting scene, I thought, where the people in the bar say, oh, you stink, you smell. And it kind of reminded me of Parasite,
Yeah.
when
Yes.
that great scene when it is in the he's trying to chauffeur, these people around, and they start to smell that there's something wrong.
There's something
And
wrong.
yeah. And so it's really good. And no matter how hard they try, they're just different. Then they are going to be on the outskirts, even just in their own essence of how they smell.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you have this ambulance crash. There's kind of two big crashes in the you have the ambulance crash, which is pretty dramatic, and then you have the truck crash a little bit later, and you have Hannah passing out at this point.
Yeah, Hannah's not well.
Mm-hmm. And so then we have Koiko at the hospital, the daughter, and we find out that that's the daughter of Jin. So he gave them the baby the same name as his daughter.
Yeah.
And then Jin sees that this is his daughter, and it's a powerful moment. And then we get a weird little surrealist moment where Hannah has this dream that she's a red devil.
Yeah.
That's an interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Side.
What do you think? Is there some meaning to it, or what did you take from that?
Well, she says, when I try to achieve something, someone always gets hurt. So I think that's what it's showing, is just that, like, it's just like another way of saying, like, I'm cursed. Like, everything that I do turns out wrong.
Yeah.
And not to, I mean, Hallmark movies are just in my head right now, but there's one from a couple years ago. This was actually Lifetime, but that's one of my favorites, that has this moment where the lead character's just not gotten this job promotion, and she's temporarily lost the love interest. She's lost the baking competition, just everything. And she sits down next to her father, and she's just like, my life is a total disaster. Like, nothing is going right. And she just cries. And it's like such an honest moment for certainly one of those movies, one of those movies of the week. And I'm like, I feel like we all, if we're honest with ourselves, we all have those moments where it's just like, I can't catch a break. Like, come on.
Yeah, true.
And I do think that this movie really, from the very beginning, as we start talking about the loneliness of the baby Jesus, like, loneliness is a definite theme of this film.
Yeah.
That we all, as much as it's about community, it's also about loneliness. And so there's some really interesting studies and stuff that have been done lately about the epidemic of loneliness, and that was only like heightened by COVID, no question.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so basically we find out that Sachiko, that she stole the baby, that she thought that if that she had the stillborn baby, and she thought that if she had a replacement baby, that her husband would love her. And her husband is a brute. Obviously, he's this police officer, but there's this whole long sequence where she's considering jumping off of the building.
Yeah, with the baby.
Yeah, because she's so depressed.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
That she thought that the husband would change, And it's a very dramatic scene because she jumps off that building, but then Setsuko, she catches
her.
Kyoko catches her.
Yeah, there's like this big,
and then Hannah.
Yeah, the whole thing. And then Hannah's very dramatic saving of the baby is so great. I just think it works so because again, it's so kind of unlikely, but yet you can see how it could work.
Yeah.
And also, like again, kind of just like Hannah is saying that this God wants this baby to live, and and Hannah is the one to kind of make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I love that scene when it's almost like a parachute.
Yes, she grabs this banner that's been hanging off the building.
Yeah, it's really good, and that's when Jin's like hanging off the side of the truck, and he's trying to talk to Sachiko, he's trying to talk to, and don't do it, and the baby just cries and cries and cries and cries, and it's not until that at the very end when they are in the hospital that the baby finally stops crying, and it's a sweet moment, but yeah, and then the truck crashes, and it's just cute because Jin at the beginning is like such kind of a weak, like near death practically, but like he becomes this sort
defeated,
of
so defeated.
Yeah, and by then he's like hanging off the side of this truck, like he'll do anything to help this baby.
Yeah,
very sweet.
It is. The Jin like finds a reason to live, and delivers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and what's really sweet is at the end they're in the hospital, and the couple come in, and they say they want the three of them to be the baby's godparents. Which is adorable.
It is.
And so they finally have kind of a little makeshift family.
A family, yeah.
And they're going to watch out for each other. And it sort of brings you back to the beginning where they've just said that nothing is harder than to have no place. So now they have a place together, and just very sweet.
Mm-hmm. And initially, again, you wouldn't think that this film was going to be sweet,
right? Yeah.
But it just is so unbelievably sweet in the best sense of the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I asked on my Twitter what people thought about it. I got a few responses. Let's see here. It's a great movie. The English dub that came out in 2019 really helps it to be more accessible. And I know that sometimes we as anime fans can be kind of snobby about that, about the dubs, but they really can help. Like, I'm just a fan of people enjoying these films. So if it helps people to have not only access to these films but also access to a whole culture.
Yeah.
And that's why I get very kind of upset when people say, oh, I don't like anime. I'm like, I mean, I feel like, okay, you haven't found the right anime yet.
Yes.
Because there's such a variety. I mean, you think like there's hardly even anything aside from being set in Japan that's comparable between this and something like a Pokemon versus something like an Akira versus
Akira,
like,
yeah,
I mean, Ghost in the Shell. Like, I mean, could they be more different? Pompoko, like not the same at all. And so I think if the dub helps you get there, I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, most of the time I prefer the sub, but I think more of the reason that I prefer the sub is a lot of times when an anime has a lot of music, like anything by Makoto Shinkai. I much prefer the sub because they don't translate the music, and it just doesn't, even if they do, it just doesn't sound the same. So but here you don't really have to worry about that. Most of the songs are like carols and stuff. So CC Takahata, he says it's an amazing, emotionally powerful film. And earlier he said that this was his favorite. He says, looking that Tokyo Godfathers, which is one of my favorite anime movies. So that's fun. Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just outstanding. It's hard to pick because Satoshi Kon, I mean, he has, I mean, I love all of his movies. And I mean, Millennium Actress, which we've done already for Obscure Animation.
Yes.
That one's wonderful.
That's excellent.
Paprika is great. If people like Inception, they'll like Paprika. It's very similar. Perfect Blue, I finally watched that. It is an R-rated film, but it's really good. And that's basically it. That's all he did.
Yeah.
Shorts, which makes me so sad.
Life cut short. Yeah.
Only 4 movies, which is sad. But I'm glad he gave us this one. It's really special.
Me too. It's special. And I meant to check the dates, Rachel, before we start recording, but it's going to be on the big screen.
Oh yeah.
In December, right? Isn't it? And I think it's with Fathom Events or some other.
Yeah. Let me look that
doing like
up
some
here.
kind of an anime fest or something.
But
I'm excited because I haven't seen it. I'd like to see it on the big screen.
Yeah, that'd be fun. We should go.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
it's okay, so it's going to be December 11th and 12th.
Okay.
And so we should definitely try to go. That would be
Are
really
they doing
fun.
both sub and dub? Does it say? Or is it
let's see.
Because sometimes they do like the sub on one day and then the dub on the other.
Okay, so it looks like the subbed is on Monday, the 11th, and the dub is on the 12th.
Okay.
So we definitely want to try to go to that.
That'd be fantastic.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah.
So let us know what you think of this if you're listening, what you think of Tokyo Godfathers, and if it is a favorite of Satoshi Kon's of yours. Love to hear in the comments or on Twitter. And Stanford, where can people follow you?
Best place is on my website.
Yeah.
I've got a movie podcast and my website is moviespastandpresent.com.
Great.
I also have an Instagram feed at movies PAP as in past present.
Yes. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes, and also the Hallmarkies podcast. If you want to get all my Christmas coverage, got lots of fun stuff over there.
Yes. You're rocking it, Rach.
And if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That really helps a lot. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. You can see all of our obscure indie animation coverage in the playlist in the description. Would really appreciate checking that out. And then we also have the Patreon group, which you can get opportunities to request episodes. You can pick for family movie night. A lot of fun stuff for the Patreon group. And then we have our merch store. You can get hashtag Animation Junkie shirts and I'm an Animation Girl shirts, which are new. I kind of did a Barbie inspiration for the merch for this season. So I had a lot of fun coming up with that with my artist friend. And so I love it. So you should check it out. And thanks so much, everybody. And we'll wish you all Merry Christmas and enjoy Tokyo Godfathers.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yeah.